Barbara Doran of BD8 Capital Partners and Kevin Gordon, head of macro research at Schwab Center for Financial Research. Guys, welcome. Kevin, let's put this in the context of Amazon. We saw some mixed reaction to the results from the big names yesterday. This is a big reaction on Amazon, which disappointed a quarter ago with that 17% AWS growth. I'm looking here, and the guide for operating income for Q4 is also between $21 and $26 billion. That means the low end of this range is where they were a year ago. I imagine the street's got to be happy about that, too.
Yeah, I think, the hitting that trifecta of guidance, but also beating on the top and the bottom line for this earnings season has been really crucial. And I think that's what you're starting to see in a lot of the more higher profile earnings reports that we're getting this week. But what we've seen in market performance and the reaction of the market, for companies that are just beating on earnings, it's not good enough. It's still a positive spread where they're outperforming the S&P, on average when they do that. But when you throw in the sales piece and then you also throw in guidance to that mix, if they're beating on all three, that's where you're tending to see a lot of the strength. And I think that's because, coming into this earnings season, the bar was actually getting raised a little bit higher. So it was a little bit of a different mix relative to what you had seen in the past few quarters where the bar was relatively low. So it was easy, estimates had gotten cut heading into the season, and then it was relatively easy for companies to jump over that. A little bit of a flip dynamic this time. But for some of the larger companies, especially within the Mag 7, a lot more focus on what the spend has been. I would argue that was probably more of a focus last night than it is tonight. But still, what are companies and these larger mega caps that are making up almost 40% of the S&P, how much are they actually expecting to get, in terms of return on some of these investments? That's coming into focus for them in particular.
Barb Duran, how does this reshape, if it does, these Amazon results? Stock still up about 10% initially in overtime on these results, and the AWS performance. Does it reshape the narrative about Amazon and AWS, the biggest cloud provider, and concerns about Google and Microsoft growing faster? Now, granted, this pop in Amazon is off a relatively depressed base since this was the worst performer in the Mag 7 so far this year.
Yeah, no, it's only been up about 3%. And the reason was the last quarter when AWS disappointed because they've had leading market share. They started way earlier than everyone else. And so the comparison, and we had Google yesterday, we had Azure, and the numbers were pretty darn good. They were over 30% for both. So this was the key metric for Amazon, even though obviously their e-commerce business is strong. They've got advertising is still scaling up for them, but this was really the critical thing that investors were watching. So this is really terrific news, and can't wait to see where else they are firing on all their cylinders. But I think advertising is going to be a powerful one because they've been really applying the AI internally.